So I know that more people will keep drifting in as the night goes on. There's meetings in other locations and events happening. We don't normally do our candidates night on a Thursday night. We usually do it on a Wednesday night. But there was an election yesterday, so we could do that. Are we ready? Are you all ready?
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is go over the ground rules and any other logistics. So I went over the parking. If you need a restroom, you go out the door and go to the right. There's a men's and a ladies' room there. The way we will do the event is we have a few changes in store for you. After 17 years, we're going to make a few changes. But we will have a 3-minute opener by each candidate. And they picked the order by pulling a piece of paper. After they do their 3 minutes, we will then open it up to questions in the audience. And I ask you to ask a question, not make a speech. I ask the candidates to answer the questions and not go too long because we want to maximize the questions and we want to maximize the answers. And after we go through that for about 45 minutes or less or more, a little bit more, if we have questions still outstanding. And then we'll do a 3-minute closer by each candidate, and they've also picked the order of the closing by picking out a number. Now, the couple of changes that I'm making this year, which will make some people very happy, is traditionally the rule has been that no elected officials can ask a question. I am going to modify the rules slightly, so listen carefully. If you are a party leader, meaning you're president or the vice president or somehow leadership in the Democratic or Republican Party, I will continue to tell you not to ask a question because this is a partisan race. If you're a council member, an elected council member, I ask you not to ask a question. That's the same as it's always been. You can always ask your neighbor to ask the question. I always tell you this, okay? So there is always a way for you to get your question asked, but it just may not be by you, okay? If you are, on a zoning board or an environmental commissioner or you're on the school board, which is a nonpartisan race, you may ask a question. All right, that is different than what I've done in the past. Okay? I've had many requests to modify, and after 17 years, I guess I'm becoming a little bit more flexible. I'm breaking down.
Oh no.
Okay, so everybody, that's great. So if you're really a party official, this is a partisan race. You've got skin in the game. So, and if you're a council person, these could be your colleagues. So, or you work with them, or you also have a little skin in the game. So, all right, everybody else can ask a question. All right, I'm just going to wait for these few people if they're coming in here. Yes? Okay. All right. So I will repeat what I just said, just before we do the question and answer. So I'm not going to repeat it right now. We're going to get right into it. So we're going to do the 3 minutes, and then we'll do the questions. So who's number one? Okay. That mic works. Yes? Can you hear me?
No.
No, it's here. You're supposed to be here. Here.
Okay, can everybody hear me? Great, okay. First, I'd like to thank Amy and Ben for organizing tonight. I'd like to thank the candidates for being here. And I'd like to thank all of you for giving up an evening to come in and listen to us. I hope it'll be informative, and I do hope that you will ask questions and that will give you good answers. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I think many of you have heard my story before, but bear with me for those of you who haven't. First of all, my name is Kathy Horgan. It says so right here. I've been a councilwoman for 2 terms, 2 3-year terms, and I'm running for re-election to a 3rd 3-year term. I've lived in Red Bank for 14 years. I'm originally from Long Island, but I've lived in many places around the world and in the States, and my late husband was a Jersey boy. So when we decided to come back from Europe, which where we lived for about 20 years, we came to New Jersey and we settled in Red Bank. My husband was always involved with local government, both domestically and internationally. In fact, we met in Washington, D.C. at the National League of Cities, which is the largest municipal association and the oldest in the United States. So local government has been a leitmotif, a theme throughout my entire life, thanks to my husband mainly. And so he was very involved in many countries. And just before his death, he was in Iraq, in Kirkuk, helping to rebuild civil society there. So after his death, he had been very involved in the Red Bank community. He had volunteered on committees, he had been appointed to committees, and after he passed, people in this town reached out to me to allow me to volunteer. And as a result, I took advantage of those opportunities because it helped through the grieving process and it helped me give back to the community. And even though I wasn't born here, I do feel that I will spend the rest of my life here. So I really loved being in Red Bank and being on the council. I work in New York City. I have a full-time job at AMFAR, the Foundation for AIDS Research, where I'm the liaison to the Board of Trustees, and I've been there 12 years, I think I just said that. And it's a wonderful organization, and I'm happy to be part of their goal, which is to find a cure for AIDS. I'm proud of the accomplishments that I have accomplished here in Red Bank during my tenure in public life. We have been very fiscally responsible in this town. We have kept taxes down. In fact, our tax levy has been a lot less than any of the towns around us, including Middletown, Little Silver, Fairhaven, and Shrewsbury. I've also been very happy to be involved with the Environmental Commission and involved with many of their initiatives, and I'll talk more about that in my closing. One of my big accomplishments that I'm very happy about is the website, the borough website. It is an award-winning website. The state, actually Monmouth University, the Polling Institute there, and their public policy department have given it 2 awards within the last 2 years for being user-friendly and for its transparency. We have our budgets on it, our audits. I just have to check my little notes here. Education, I'm chair of the Education Technology Committee. Education is can I say one more thing?
One sentence.
Okay, I'm the past president of the Red Bank Borough Education Foundation, and we are now funding special projects in the middle school. Thank you very much.
Hi, how are you? My name is Sean Soma, and I'll give you a little background about me. I've fairly recently moved to Red Bank, and I grew up in northern New Jersey. I'm an executive at a shareholder communications firm where we advise Fortune 100 and 500 companies on corporate governance issues, and I get to spend a lot of time around some of the most brilliant people in the world, and when they make their decisions during their decision-making process. And so, that coupled with living in Red Bank and seeing what was going on here in town made me want to get involved. There's something that's near and dear to my heart. When I was about 7 years old, my dad had left home. He had left us and wasn't the type of person who wanted to take care of his responsibilities. So I had a single mom who was juggling 2 jobs and trying to maintain a home that she thought she would have 2 incomes to pay for. So for a couple of years, you know, my mom couldn't afford to buy me a Halloween costume. So when I wanted to be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, I was a little chubby kid going to school as a table, you know, in a costume that my mom had made. And I can remember a specific event one day when she opened up her property tax bill and realized she was going to lose the house. And that's something that never leaves you. And that's something that's really important to me. And, you know, there are a lot of single mothers in this town, and there are a lot of working poor in this town. And I've spent a lot of time, they're trying to maintain their home. And I've spent a lot of time talking to different folks around town. And I can tell you that this is a big issue, and it's a very serious issue. Over the last 6 years, contrary to other statements, property taxes in Red Bank, just on the municipal level, have gone up 37%. Over the last 10 years, they've gone up about close to 70%. And the towns around us have not gone up more than us. That's factually inaccurate. And, you know, this is a big reason why I'm running. Like Kathy said, I wasn't born here, but I promise you I'm going to die in this town. And so either way, you know, folks are...
We don't know.
You know what, it could be pretty soon. But, you know, I want to thank everybody for being here, and I hope we can really engage in a strong discussion and a passionate discussion. There are three wonderful people sitting next to me, and you know, I know that just from traveling the town, I know there are a lot of you who have some very serious issues with the way this town is being run. And, you know, this is something that I want you to know I'm fighting for. That's why I'm here. I'm asking each and every one of you for your vote. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome. And I, too, would like to thank Amy for putting on the 17th annual debate night. And I want to thank you all for coming and taking an interest in Red Bank and Red Bank government, which is something I've always tried to get people involved in. My name is Cindy Burnham. I am a 58-year-old single mother of 3 daughters, 29, 20, and 18. I grew up in Colts Neck, on the same farm as my mother, and as you know, there's really no town in Colts Neck, so Red Bank was my town. I feel I was raised in Colts Neck. My mom graduated from Red Bank High School in 1950, and I got my first apartment in Red Bank in 1979 on Washington Street. I bought my first house in Red Bank in 1982 on West Street for $34,900, and it was then that I found that I had a deep commitment to service in Red Bank. And I am dedicated and I have a passion for improving the quality of life for all Red Bankers, young and old. And when I say quality of life issues, I mean taxes, I mean DPW issues, I mean public water access, I mean all those things because they affect everybody. I have worked at Red Bank Regional High School as a substitute school teacher for the last 7 years. I am on the board of The Source, which is a counseling center, and I am the treasurer there. I have done a lot in Red Bank over the last 30 years. I've been quite a little activist. I've ruffled feathers, but I think I've gotten a lot of things done, which will probably come up later on in the evening. But what I really want to say is tonight, I don't want tonight to be about us and them. I want tonight to be about me and you. I want you to know more about me, what I've done, what I will do, my view for the way that Red Bank will go. And I want to hear from you folks about your concerns, what will make you happy, how do you feel Red Bank's going, and you know, how can I serve you? Is the bottom line. My main issues in Red Bank, of course, is the rising municipal tax rate, the water and the sewer, overdevelopment, which we are already 98% developed, the misuse of taxpayer dollars, which is extreme in my eyes. And the people that are out there that don't regularly come to meetings wouldn't really know all these little things because you have to really know what's going on in Red Bank to see where the money is going, and that's very upsetting to me. And I think we can make a lot of cuts in that. So without any more further ado, I shall give my mic to Ms. Lee.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Sharon Lee, and Amy, I'd like to thank you again, 17 years. It has to be a mission of love. It has to. The only one, maybe you'll become the honorary mayor of Red Bank. That's the only position open, I believe. And of course, her husband, who's always supporting the children. I want to thank you all for coming this evening. I'm going to keep this simple because I've been on council for 9 years. I've been in Red Bank for just about my entire life. I'm a true local. Whether that's good or bad, we'll know someday. Was born in Fort Monmouth and brought home to Red Bank and traveled as a military family in and out. But I went to school in this very school here, which is now a senior center, which is interesting to be in your grammar school. And I've served on the council. I've served on just about every committee that there is on council. And I currently sit on the police, fire, code, I have a list of them, Riverview Medical Center, or Meridian Medical Center. I have served in the past as the council president, which is now to my successor, Art Murphy. We have been involved in the projects around Parks and Rec and giving back to the children of Red Bank, because that's the future, the true future of our town. All for all the things we have. Without the children, there's not much left of the town and what we can deliver. I look forward to an interesting conversation, not quite so spirited. Thank you.
Okay, so everyone, all the candidates did their 3-minute opener, and a number of people have come in. So what I'd like to do is just, again, go over the modified ground rules that we have right now. So we're going to take the next 45 minutes or so to have questions from the audience. I will take the questions from the audience. I will basically sweep back and forth across. I ask you to ask one question. If there's time, and there probably will be time, you can ask a second question. I might allow you to do a little bit of follow-up. I'll use my own discretion. I will allow some bantering up here as well on the question. So I think we'll flush them out. But please, when you ask a question, really ask a question. Don't make a speech. And again, I ask the candidates to answer the question as succinctly as possible so we can get through as many questions as possible. The modified rules of the night are the following. If you are an official or leadership in the Democratic or Republican Party, you cannot ask a question because this is a partisan race. If you're a council member or the mayor, you cannot ask a question. But everyone else, if you're on the school board or the zoning board or whatever, you may ask a question. So that's different than what I've done in the past. I've had many requests to modify, and as I said earlier, after 17 years, I finally got the message that I should modify, okay? And I'm also going to tell you that if you're in one of those categories where you're not allowed to ask a question, just write the question down and give it to somebody else. I mean, I'm sure someone will probably ask the question that you would have wanted to ask. But if not, get somebody else to ask so you don't have to break the rules. Okay, is everybody squared away? For the people who came in later, if you're parked in a numbered parking spot, that is a resident spot. You could get towed or have somebody angry come in here and tell you to move your car. So if you are in a numbered spot, please move your car, go on the street, or there's some visitor spots along the way. Is everybody good with that? And the last thing is, Ben, could you text your son and tell him where this is? Yes. And then there are two things that I wanted to say. Actually, there are two people missing who are often here. Joyce Williams has been the vice president of the West Side Community Group for many, many years. She's always the person who arranges the chairs and everything else. She's actually at Kensington Court. She's in an assisted living, so she's not able to be mobile as she has in the past. I'm sure she's raising a little hell over there. She knows how to do it. She's doing okay, but she's having a hard time with mobility and she's in a lot of pain. So the other is that we've always had Chief McCarthy here, and the last time I saw Joyce was actually at the services. And he's always been a champion for us here and on the West Side, and he came every single meeting to the West Side Crime Watch meeting. So we're sad that he's not with us, but he left a lot behind that we get benefit from as Joyce, even though she is still with us, but she's not able to do the things that she did in the past. So I just wanted to give a special shout out about that. So are we ready? Everybody clear? Anybody have questions about the ground rules? All right, so I'm going to start over here. Is there a question? Is there a question over here? We're going to leave like in 5 minutes? How about questions in the back? Other questions in the back? Whoa. Okay. Well, we've never had microphones in the past, so I guess you could come up, or I could just repeat the question.
Hi, Andre Simons at 5 William Street. My question is for the incumbents because it involves some policy going on right now regarding 94 Front Street, the lot next to the library, that is currently unregistered open space inventory list. But I understand there's a drive to take that lot away from the inventory list. So my question is why, especially given that when the garden was being planned there, that lot was considered last open space where people would go, get to the river, but so it seemed to go against the idea of taking off the open space inventory. So just like some clarification on that, please.
If you want to take it, I can take it.
There is a mic there.
I don't think this
It
is
did.
working.
This one doesn't work. I think it needs to come down.
But I don't know.
It was working just before.
I know, I don't know something, what happened.
I believe the issue the question was, what about the lot next to the library? Well, I think the lot was obtained originally to provide parking for the library. And my general understanding is that it got onto the Rossi list for open space, and it cannot be on both the Rossi and be a allotted parking space, even though we only use the upper portion for a parking space. That's my general understanding of how the lot is dispositioned right now. And so moving it off the Rossi, it cannot be used for open space, it's a parking lot.
Andres, where are you? Okay. My understanding is it was inadvertently put on the Rossi years ago, and I know that the borough has been in contact with the DEP, and they do agree with us, and there is a process that we will have to follow, which we haven't started yet, because the lot next to the library and the lot that you're talking about were designated for the library and not for just general parking. So there will be a process. The DEP has set it out for us about all of the things that we have to do. And we can talk about it more later if you'd like, but it was inadvertently put onto the Rossi, and the DEP does agree with what we've said, but we do have to go through a process.
No, I understand the part about inadvertent, but what's the point of taking it off? If it's the reason for not having a garden there was because it was an open space for everyone. That's the follow-up.
The question about the garden didn't come up in whether it was Rossi's parking.
Well, I mean, if it in place, it's called open space for everyone there. So
it can't exist as Rossi and a parking lot at the same time. Open space and Rossi are compatible. Parking lot and Rossi are not.
I think the question that's being raised is it better to be a parking lot or is it better to be open space? It's really, it sort of comes down to a question, and then there was some determination about the community garden to not put it there because of its status, and now because the status has come into question, is that what you're, why can't it just stay as open space rather than being a parking lot?
Right, I also understand, as far as I know, it can be bifurcated, parking in the green spaces.
Because it's general parking, it was originally dedicated for general parking. That's why. And it was nothing to do with open space with Green Acres because we did go out to bond for that. There was an ordinance for that. So the borough wanted to keep it for parking.
And that public meeting is coming up in any days?
No, I don't have any information on that yet. Something for the future.
I'd like to respond to that.
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
Okay. This is my forte, as most people know, considering the fact that I have forged and helped create Maple Cove, the only public access in Red Bank to the Navesink River. When in fact, Red Bank did ask that the entire lot of Maple Cove, that means the parking lot and the park, and the entire lot of 94, that means the grassy area and the parking lot, both be removed from the Green Acres open space list. And right now, our tax dollars have been spent at T&M, who has hired a environmental consultant to try to prove to the DEP that these properties were put on the Rossi by mistake. And yes, there will be a hearing and a public hearing, but I do believe that they're waiting until after the election to announce it, because I've got a letter here from the DEP, from T&M to the DEP, stating that they are ready to, Red Bank is ready to move ahead with this public hearing. But nothing has been done yet. And DEP does not agree with Red Bank. In fact, they have said this is not an all or nothing scenario, and DEP is urging Red Bank to keep the land portion of both of these parcels on the Green Acres open space list. If you notice, in the library parking lot, there's new signs that say for park and library use only. And that's what that parking, there's like one designated spot for the park, and the library gets to use the rest of the parking lot. Now, regarding Maple Cove is on the Green Acres open space list. That parking lot is only supposed to be used by park users. Red Bank has been in violation of the parking restrictions there, and that is why the DEP, Green Acres, withheld their funding for their last turf grant, which was $550,000. All Red Bank really has to do down at Maple Cove parking lot is put up a sign that says for park users only. And they could even designate 3 of those parking places for public use. But the way I see it, and in my opinion, you've got Kay Hove Nanyan, who put $17,000 into the reconstruction of that parking lot, and he wants to use it as his, this is the way I see it, as his visitors parking. And so all this is up in the air. But by no means does the DEP agree with Red Bank. It has to go for a public hearing. And I'm very taken back that after the fight for the garden in '94 and Sharon saying, you know, this is the last piece of public land where the people can get to the water, why would you take it off the Green Acres open space list? And to try to take the entire lot of Maple Cove, which is the only public access to the Navesink River, where you can hand launch a small craft where people go down and take their dogs and kids put their feet in the water, to take that off, I think just shows a lack of sensitivity for environmental issues.
Well, we have not moved to remove anything that BP has said we did not have to address. If we were not told we had to address it, more than likely we would be. And it has nothing to do with the timing on the election. I mean, we are here. Everyone is, in town. We will have the meeting when we have the meeting.
Well, Sharon, I have a letter right here that says, as outlined documents supporting our request to remove the above referenced properties from the Rossi due to bona fide error, the borough has and continues to use the properties, well, they say, for public parking in association with the Red Bank Public Library. Upon confirmation from your office, the borough is prepared to proceed with public notification and hearing requirements. They have submitted their paperwork. They are ready to go ahead with this public hearing, and I've brought it...
Are you aware what our hearing requirements are?
Pardon me?
Almost every hearing requirement that we, excuse me, I have no problem with it. Almost every hearing requirement we have requires a 1-month notice.
Well,
So,
yes.
And what is the date on the letter?
Oh, okay. August 9th, 2012.
August, September?
2012.
All right, so let me get this, all right. So we're not going to resolve this question here, but the issue has clearly been raised, right? All right, we're not going to resolve it here. So it's important if people want to engage in this issue, they should look out for or call your council people on a regular basis or whatever it is you use as your network to find out when the hearings are. You can engage in that process, okay?
Amy, can I just say one thing about that? Or no, we're finished with this? Okay.
I think we're going to move on, okay? All right, so I was actually in the middle of the room. I will come back. Hold on to your questions, okay? So I was sweeping over here. Is there any more questions over on this side? Any more questions over here? Go ahead. Okay, here.
I'm sorry, isn't she like a campaign volunteer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of a Democratic Party official?
Are you a Democratic Party official?
No, she's not.
No, you can ask your question. You can be
Oh yeah, no,
You can be a Democratic Party member or a Republican Party member, you just can't be the top of the heap, okay?
Thank you.
Please
I have a
use
question for
discretion.
Mr. DeSona.
Yeah.
On your Facebook page, you state that under Sharon Lee's leadership in the past 10 years, taxes have raised by 100%. Where did you get those facts?
Sure.
Pardon me?
You have to pass the
Yeah.
microphone back.
The only one.
No, the other microphone. Oh, okay. I'm going to use this other microphone.
Yeah, and that's a great question, and I really appreciate it. Number one, since Sharon Lee's been in office, property taxes are up. Property taxes themselves are up 67%. Okay, and that is according to the municipal budget. So there's my source for that. When you include water rate increases that Sharon Lee has voted for over the years, we're up to somewhere close to 100%. So I'm not sure it was 100% on the dot, but pretty darn close. So, and again, my source was municipal budgets. Yeah, so municipal budgets to answer your question. Yeah, what's that? And also newspaper stories. So I'll give you a perfect example. I see Sharon and Kathy handing out a flyer that says they've kept property taxes under the 2% cap. That's technically correct because there is a cap, but there's a huge loophole in the cap. And this is the kind of fuzzy math that we've become used to from our politicians in Washington and our politicians in Red Bank. So, Larry Higgs from the Asbury Park Press is here. He wrote an article earlier this year that was unequivocal in stating that Red Bank's property taxes just this year alone were up 7.74%. Now, if we want to get into actual spending and budgeting, see what we do on the council, what the politicians on the council do, is they're very clear and they say, well, we don't have any money because ultimately the town's broke. We maintain about a $500,000 cash cushion in the budget every single year, but we don't have another penny to scrape together. So when we have sick and unused vacation leave payouts, $1 million over the last 3 years that we've had to bond for, and then the failure in planning, which Sharon, Kathy, I think you guys would both agree, you didn't even know the number that you had in the budget that you passed. Our current liabilities, who knows what they are currently, But as of the last budget they passed was $2.4 million. So $2.4 million that we're responsible for in sick and vacation leave payouts that we haven't saved for, and we don't know how we're going to pay for them. And according to Sharon and Kathy, they don't know when people are going to retire. I suggested that maybe age was a good determining factor when folks would retire. So, you know, we know what's coming down the pike, and we know that there's no money in the coffers, so all we do is we continue to bond and bond, and after a certain period of time, do you want me to finish answering your question? After a certain period of time, when you're $30 million in debt between the water utility and between the municipal budget, at some point that catches up to you. So, and that's where we are right now. So yeah, close to 100%.
I'm talking about taxes.
Yeah, okay, so taxes 67%, okay? Straight up 67%.
67?
67%, yes, yeah, absolutely, 67.
Because when Ms. Lee started on the council, there were 43 cents per $100. Now they're 52.
There have been, yeah, and again, we're going back to fuzzy math, right? So what they've also done is reassess properties. And as everybody who owns a property in this room knows, they're calling $400,000 properties, $800,000 properties, and $60,000 properties, $150,000 properties. I'll let Sharon go ahead and answer.
Well, I think I'd just like to answer the question regarding the tax collection. In our municipal budget, that I was actually not had to leave because it was a budget meeting, and we didn't want to have a quorum there. But the presentation of our municipal budget did indicate that there was a 97% tax rate increase, but it was the tax collection rate increase. It's the rate at which we have collected taxes thanks to the online systems that they've incorporated in the finance office. It was not the rate increase, it was the rate at which they collected the taxes for the borough. They would like it to be at 100%, but that's almost impossible with empty properties, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where that number 97% came from. We do not have a 97% tax increase in this borough. The tax rate has gone down. It did go up 05, 06, and then it came down 07, 08. And that is the standard that we use.
I just say one thing. Because the municipal rate is very different from the rest of the taxes that we all pay. So in this budget, the municipal rate is 29% of the budget. You have to remember too that most of our money goes to education, to Red Bank Regional and to the borough schools. There's a certain percentage also that goes to the county and some of a percentage that goes to open space. So when you're talking about increase in taxes, the municipal rate is a lot lower. You spend 27%, 29 cents of every dollar that you pay, that we pay in taxes, goes to the municipal, to the borough, to run the town, the borough, for the operational expenses.
Okay.
And one of the other things you mentioned, the amount of vacation and sick time. These are contractual obligations of the borough. The borough has always maintained its contractual obligations, and as long as I'm on council, I will attempt to make sure that they continue to maintain their contractual obligations. We are currently planning for them, have been since last year, mid-year, as far as a determinant of when people will retire. Certainly age is a factor, but if you look at Red Bank, we do not have many retirees who retire at 55 or 62. We do not have traditional retirees, and we certainly cannot count deaths because we don't know when that's going to happen.
Sure. Yeah. And I appreciate the response, except if I were just going to take it point by point. Members of the council made public statements earlier this year saying we had not planned for that, we did not know these people were going to retire. So, and when I personally went to the council meeting and asked, what is the plan, nobody had an answer for me. So, we owe $2.4 million. Where's the money? You're going to bond it next time, and you're going to bond it again. Now, when you're talking about property tax increases, is there anybody in this room, and and I'm talking about the municipal rate. You know, it's a good politician's talking point to say, well, it's the schools, or well, it's this, or it's the county rate, which by the way stayed flat this year. Is there anybody in the room whose municipal property taxes went down over the last 10 years, or even came down over the last 5 years, or down over the last 2 years, outside of when you had your home reassessed, outside of a home reassessment? Is there anybody outside of a reassessment? No, I'm sorry, outside of an appeal. Is there anybody outside of an appeal?
Yes.
Okay, so one person. So here's my biggest issue. Yeah, I got one.
Okay, so make the point so we can move on.
Got it. So there's nobody in here that can say your water and sewer bills are lower, and there's nobody in here who can say your property tax bills are lower. At the end of the day, we're about $30 million in debt. We have no cash reserve, and you know these are the folks at fault. Reckless spending. I'll give you a perfect example. Kathy Horgan earlier this year approved a bond for the bulkhead behind the library, and approved spending, professional spending, both attorneys, engineers, and they spent tens of thousands of dollars on that project, and then Kathy Horgan, after she authorized the money to be spent, then turned around and voted against the bond. So now we can't even borrow that money, and that money comes out of our municipal budget, and we're broke.
We tabled that particular ordinance, the bonding. No, but we tabled it. We didn't pass it.
But you voted against it.
No, we tabled it. No, excuse me. Sean, we tabled it, okay? Believe me.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were talking about the payouts as well. I don't know now, we have so many questions here. Should we just stop and go on?
Yeah,
or-
why don't we, and then just make notes to yourself, and as you choose to,
Yeah.
you can answer them, okay? Because I'd like to,
Yeah.
there's some more questions here. All right? So I'm gonna, is this mic work? Hold on. Yeah, all right, so give me that mic. Give me that hand mic. And you're gonna use this. You're gonna use this mic between you, okay? All right, so I was over here, now I'm coming back over here. Tom, did you have a question? Charles?
No, I just wanted everybody to look forward instead of at each other when you respond, because it's kind of hard to read the lips.
It's such an unnatural thing to look away from the person
Yeah.
who asked the question. It's just unnatural, but we'll try.
Okay. All right, Tom, did you have a question? Okay, all right. Quiet up on here on the set. Here, Tom?
You know, I don't need a microphone.
All right, just speak loud.
This question is for Cindy Burnham, and I have to relate events. I was at a council meeting a number of years ago, and the issue of Maple Cove came up. Cindy happened to be sitting in front of me, and she had related to Jim Crawford and his wife, how she had been down there the previous weekend clearing the path to the river. Now, after the fact, she got up in front of the council and said that she had never removed any vegetation from the waterfront property at Maple Cove, which is against the law. You cannot remove any vegetation from transition area without a DEP permit. Now, Cindy, why is it that you did not represent the factual matters to the council? I mean, if you were proud of it, you thought it was important, why didn't you tell the council that you removed that vegetation? Instead, you sat in front of me and told Jim Crawford and his wife that you cleared the path, and then got up in front of the council and denied having removed any material.
Okay. First of all, everything that I have done has been DEP approved. And when we started this,
You need to use the microphone.
okay. Everything that I have done down at Maple Cove, or anyone has done down there, except for the borough, has been DEP approved. Along with John Curley and Grace Cangemi, and with the help of Stanley Sickles moving us, they prodded Stanley to move along, and we got DEP permission to clear a path from the parking lot over the dirt mound to the water, okay? And we did that. Then they came and they took the soil piles away with DEP approval, and we had to reestablish the path. Now, when you say that I took away vegetation, I am down there regularly and I rake and I clean that path. That has nothing to do with, I'm not in violation of anything. So I really don't understand what you're trying to get. I know.
No, I think the thing is that, you know, you sat in front of me, you were related to Jim Crawford and his wife, and at the time, you did not have DEP approval. And
We've
then
had
you did-
DEP
you
approval
did
from the
not-
very
You would not acknowledge the council that you were responsible for what actions you take.
Listen, I take responsibility for everything that I've done, and everything that I have done has been DEP approved. I even hand pull the knot lead because that's the way the DEP says to pull it. And for the last 6 years, at age 58, because the town will not take responsibility for that open space, I schlep a lawnmower down there, I mow it, I get the mulch. They don't put the mulch down there for the parks like that. And you want to know something? It's the nicest park in town.
Well,
And I have done nothing illegal.
I don't believe you had DEP approval at the time.
Pardon me? Wait, what did you?
I do not believe you had DEP approval.
Well,
at the time.
then you have the proof of the, then you have to find, then you have to show me proof that I am in violation, and I am not in violation.
All right, so Tom, hold on, okay. So the disagreement here is that some time ago, not most recently, some time ago, you did something and misrepresented yourself, and Tom is questioning that, and why you would misrepresent yourself at a time where you didn't have permits. I don't think you're going to resolve it, because I think you have a difference of opinion as to whether you had permission or you didn't at the time that he's speaking to. So I'm going to move on, but a point has been raised, okay? All right. No? Are you, if you have something that you want to respond to this in particular, you can, but I just, going back and forth, you won't resolve your issue.
Well, one of the things that anyone who's ever served in any government office knows is that we have to answer to everyone before we do anything. We have to answer to not just the citizens of the town we're in, we have to answer to the county, we answer to the state, we answer to the DEP, we answer to the FHA, you name it, we answer to it before we start anything. The difference with a citizen activist is that they can do it and say, we're sorry. The borough does it, and the citizens end up paying the price for fines levied against us when we make a decision to do something. So our decision to make a piece of property a park is foreshadowed by permits and fees and engineering fees, and we must do this. This is what the law does. This is the difference between being a citizen activist and being a member of the council where you're responsible to someone greater than yourself.
Can you keep this because we keep with this?
She's gonna rip my leg off.
We never had mics before, I'm beginning to regret them.
No, this is good.
I just would like to say one thing, that everything I did was DEP approved. I worked with Stanley, I worked with Grace Kangemi, and I worked with John Curley. And after John Curley and Grace Kangemi got off, and we got Miss Lewis and Ed Zipridge, all work stopped. I spoke to Stanley what to do next. You know, I didn't go off and do things crazily. And Ms. Lee talks about the council having responsibility. You are in violation right now of DEP regulations in the parking lot at Maple Cove. And that's why you were denied $550 for your Green Acres for your turf projects. So when you're looking at people in violation here, look to Red Bank. They've also done a lot of dumping down there when you were putting in the parking lot.
That park,
Okay. Well, last point and then that's it.
the park was never authorized for the borough to make that a park. It was a piece of property. We stopped it from being sold, and you did pick up meth and build on it, but it was never designated to be a park originally, just to say that.
No, it's open space. You call
Okay.
it open space, but anything that's
It
open space.
is not acknowledged as a park other than in the town of Red Bank.
Well, the DEP acknowledges it as park.
Okay, so I think this issue was spoken about earlier, points that were made earlier, and the issue that Thomas raised can't be resolved, but at least it's been brought to light. You can do with it whatever you want to do with it when you're thinking about voting, okay? Just like everything else and every other comment anybody makes here. Okay, so I'm sweeping back here. Any questions? Any questions? Go ahead, ask a question. Now I'm on a cord, so maybe you should talk loud.
Yes.
My name is Beth Henry. I'm on South Street, and I'm also involved with the Friends of the Library. And this is for whomever cares to jump on it. Our library budget, state and municipal funding has gone down for the last several years. We've had to cut hours, we've not replaced staff that is left, and now we have for buying books and material. I wanted to hear your thoughts on whether the library should be a priority for our community and what you think you might do to make it so.
Well, I sit on the library board for the mayor, on the mayor's behalf most days. So I'm very serious about the library, and I of course feel that it is an integral part of our borough, for our young people, for our seniors. It's the only services we have of lending library in the borough, and it's very liberal with its usage and availability. And I struggle regularly to see that your budget is there, and I hope that we'll be able to increase staff and get back to full hours, because it's one of the things that we offer our citizens year-round. So I'm 100% for you, and pass it on.
Yeah, Audrey, I concur with Sharon. I'm sorry. Beth.
It's bad.
Beth, I'm sorry. I concur with Sharon. I think libraries are very important. I grew up going to the library where I grew up on Long Island in Oyster Bay. And I think, unfortunately, what's happening with the library is that we're cutting back as much as we can. And unfortunately, that has also happened to the library. But we certainly don't want to lose it. And we will do our best. Hopefully, I know you're having fundraisers. So I'm hoping that that will help. But I hope we can get back to full hours as well. It's an unfortunate side effect of the economy and trying to keep taxes down.
Anybody else want to respond?
Yeah. As far as, I'm probably not the right person to ask this question. I used to return books late and have a lot of fines as a kid.
Good at that.
I did read them multiple times. Yeah. The Outsiders is my favorite book, by the way. I always felt like a greaser. So, look, just as far as the municipal library goes, we need to figure out, we need to work with real leadership and figure out how we can either make it work or decide that it's just no longer feasible. So my issue is technology's moved on. There are a lot of different things that we can do as a municipal library system. You know, I've looked at what the Seattle Municipal Library System is doing with, you know, Kindles and stuff like that, and they're saving a lot of taxpayer money. There's also a discussion to be had on whether the county system continues to subsidize and absorb. So, number one, if I could, I'd conserve the library. If we can't, then we can't, and that's unfortunate, and we all understand that. And, you know, if it's unfeasible, it's a big part of our budget. So it's in a lot of ways, it's becoming very difficult. There's tremendous value in having a library. It's a beautiful library. There's great stuff that goes on in there. So rather than just saying, well, we're going to try to fund it, or we're going to cut back funding this year, let's work together with real leadership and say, hey, what can we do better? How can we make this library more accessible to more people, more efficiently run? You know, and that, to me, before cutting anything, or before saying, hey, let's throw more money on it, let's make it more efficient. And that's my take on it.
Well, I believe, I am very passionate about the library, and I have been on the Friends, and I have tried to help the library, and I've tried to help them maintain their yard, and I do believe that, and call me a cynic, but I do believe that eventually Red Bank wants to see the library gone, and with Hovnanian owning those properties along Front Street and the two borough properties that abut it, I've seen the picture that Mr. Sickles showed me of the bluffs-like complex covering that whole hill. So I am totally for saving these waterfront properties and saving the library. I have watched over the years the town give the library less and less funding. The library is always packed. The library is packed all the time. I would like to see a little more funding with the library. You know, we've got our turf over at Count Basie Field, and that's great. We've spent millions with turf. I don't know how much it costs to maintain it, but you know, the water bill alone at the library is $1,200 a year. $1,200 a year. I don't think that's a lot of money to put into the budget of a library. I mean, I know we're tightening our belts here and there, but I would like to see the town fund the library, its water bill. Like I say, I see all the money going into turf. I don't need turf. I don't care about turf. I respect the people that need turf and the children that need turf, and we've got our turf. Now let's move on and let's put some more money back into our library. I mean, turf is used by a lot of kids and people that aren't Red Bank residents. Our library is used by our seniors. It's for our children that don't have computers. It has wonderful programs. It is always packed, and it just needs to be supported. And that's how I feel about the library.
I just want to add one more quick comment. And I think that, you know, that's a great comment by Cindy and by everybody here. But I think something that we need to look towards when we're dealing with the library, or when we're dealing with the water utility, or when we're dealing with municipal employees and how many folks we have down in town hall, I think it speaks to a bigger issue, which is we can't keep trying to fix a 100-year-old system and just try to say, here's money, here's less money, here's more money, here's less money. When are we going to take our local municipal government into the 21st century? And what is the fate of the library in that? I think it could be a really great fate for the library if we have some real thought leadership. And you know, I'm a pretty ambitious guy. When I knock on doors and when I talk to people, they say, well, there's no way you can cut property taxes. All the politicians have told me that for years, and they never do. They say we're going to hold the line, and they're up every single year. And we hear that kind of stuff, and just my response is, why can't we be ambitious here in Red Bank? Why can't we work together and actually come up with a new idea, right? Why can't we come up with a new idea? We're working on 100-year-old ideas. Our water utility is 140 years old. You know, the library model is 100 years old. Let's make it better. Let's update it. Everything's better. Nobody wants a telephone from 1941 unless they like antiques. I want an iPhone or an Android or a BlackBerry or whatever people have. That's what people want. Or a flip phone. These are the phones that people want. So let's update our municipal government and let's be ambitious when we try to do it. So, and that's what I'm really committed to.
All right, so I'm gonna move on.
Quick close on the library. The library has its own board. It's an amazing board. It is certainly taking it into the future very well and quickly with what resources they have. Everyone would like more money. They are doing more electronic books. They are doing lending, electronic lending. It's an amazing board, and I thank the board for all the work that they're doing. You touched on a 100-year-old system. How do you even, can you even comprehend what it would take to change a 100-year-old water system?
Yeah.
We update the water system. You do not just rip it out and put it in PVC. It doesn't happen like that.
I know.
It's an impossible, I can't even have this conversation.
Well,
All right, one response.
And one response is, yeah, you know, maybe you can't rip every piece of pipe out of the ground, but you can make it run more efficiently. The private sector does it all the time. All of the private sector water utility, all the private sector water utility. Well, actually, the cost for, somebody just asked what are the costs. The cost for private water is about 35% lower than it is for Red Bank water and sewer. So yeah, I'm sorry. Wait, no, Sharon, you're gonna let me finish. All right, will give you the same respect. Yeah, all right. That's why this campaign is fun. So yeah, you can update that, and water is cheaper. And I know what you're probably going to say that, well, down in Ocean County somewhere, they just raised their water rates. Yeah, I know, we've heard that from the council before, but you guys have raised our water rates a lot. A lot to water and sewer. I spoke to a guy who just moved into town. They didn't tell me. And by the way, and there's a headline, I believe it was the Asbury Park Press, but it could have been Red Bank Read. I'm not sure which means, where it says municipal water is a backdoor tax on residents. In a time when our paychecks aren't going up, and you folks are taking away tax deduction and property taxes, so you can say we only raised it by 8% this year or 12% this year. But we've raised your water rates through the roof, and you can't write those off on your federal income taxes. And this is the type of stuff that goes on. This is what politicians do. And then they come back at you with fuzzy math and say we can't do this. I'm telling you we can.
All right, now this is really the last line, then I'm going to go on to the next one.
Just a little something on the water.
Okay.
You very skillfully said, our water rates, our water sewer rates, and somebody else's water. And you need to understand that where somebody else is paying just for water, we are paying for water and sewer. Other towns around us, I don't really concern myself too much with what other towns are doing, because I spend a lot of time on what Red Bank's doing. Our water and sewer are linked, and they are one bill. And they are less than water and sewer in other towns. Dollar for dollar water itself. We add sewer in, and yes, it's an issue. The water bill that you might get in Little Silver is not like the water and sewer bill here, because it does not include sewer. And most of the water bill is sewage.
Sharon, I've got to be honest. That's a typical, that's political fuzzy math. Again, from a politics.
Fuzzy math is not your toilet flush.
I'm gonna move on. Right? So there's a question here.
My question is for
You need a mic? Here, no, use this one.
Sean, I understand you're a supporter of Governor Christie, who has made cuts to the municipalities. And also, you've indicated how you're going to lower the budget, but you've been very vague on what services you're going to cut to do that. So far, I hear you probably will sell the library building, because I don't know how you get efficiency out of that. You have a building, you have fixed costs, maybe you lay off the staff. And privatize the water system. That's the specifics I can get from you, so please tell me what services you're going to cut and how you're going to lower the budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, no, wait, sorry.
You can use that one then.
So, and that's a great question. Just to start, just so you know, I will not cut any services. There will be no service cuts. And that's the biggest, and that's the most important, that's the biggest lie that my opponents and some of their party affiliates have been going around saying, well, he's going to cut all of your services and he's going to try to do this. No, like I said, we've got a 100-year-old system of government. So if you want to get down to brass tacks, let's do it. Our municipal budget is somewhere around $20 to $21 million. Can we agree on that number? Okay, so 21 million. So we agree on a number for one. Yeah, so we agree on a number for one. First and foremost, let's cut, I see a bunch of council folks in here, and I see a bunch of our public servants, and I look and I say, well, between their salary and benefits, let's start there, and I'm willing to put my own money where my mouth would be. Between their salary and benefits, some of whom we pay $25,000 a year for their family's health insurance. We're talking about somebody who, I've seen this person's house. Not bad, good job. It's a big house. And this person's net worth is well over at least $1 million. So let's start there. That's a small cut, but it matters. Number two, Fairhaven privatized their garbage. I brought this up at a council meeting. Many of you said, you know what, that's a good idea, maybe we should look into it. Including the mayor, who said, maybe we should look into this again. And what Fairhaven's been able to do is save about 77% off of their municipal trash pickup budget. That's real savings. And that's not a service cut. And let me tell you something. When we're negotiating contracts with some sort of outside vendor, the contracts that we negotiate will be some of the toughest you'll ever see. So if we get above a certain complaint threshold, you'll end up with potentially as good or better service than we get now for a small fraction of the cost. And this is what I talk about, 21st century government. So that's a start. We have a township administrator who lives in town, who drives, I haven't priced out a Durango lately, but who drives almost a $50,000 car around town. Why? I'd rather reimburse him to use his own vehicle for 55 cents a mile. It would come to a small fraction of that. And this is what I'm talking about. People's paychecks aren't getting bigger, but the municipal budget is. So, yeah, that's how we're going to do it. I hope I answered your question. So, and I'm sorry, what was your other, did you have another question? Something I missed?
No, that was the question.
Yeah.
She wanted to know what you were going to do.
I mean, if you
Okay.
talk about, say, privatizing a garbage service,
Yeah.
maybe it costs a little less, but you don't know you're getting the same service under that
Mhm.
contract.
Yeah, so,
The devil is in the details.
I agree, honey, I agree, honey.
So you can't just say, well, you paid less, you may be paid 7% less than getting 50% less service.
I agree with that. I agree with that 100%, which is why I've looked into it. I've spoken to other council members and mayors, and that's also why when you go out to bid, you ask, where else do you work? And you call those folks in those towns and you get references. And that's what we're going to do. So absolutely not under any circumstances. And will you get less service? But so let's start with cutting the council's salaries. Council members shouldn't make a salary. Well, I don't want a salary to do this. And you can make whatever comment you want on top of that. I don't want you to pay for my health insurance benefits. That's a cut. It's a relatively small cut. It's probably a few bucks in everybody's pocket, but what it does at least says to the folks who are with you. Okay? And then number two, the garbage, and also our water utility is saddled and straddled with $8 million worth of debt. We've got a 100-year-old water system. So guess what? When a pipe busts on Lake Avenue or Lake or somewhere else, or God forbid something worse happens, guess who's going to be stuck holding the bag? We are. So yeah, I'd much rather give it to somebody else, get an automatic 30% rate cut because they go to the BPU rate. Somebody negotiate that. One second. And
You have to finish up, though.
yeah, I got it. Automatic, and we get an automatic rate cut. It's a win for everybody all around, and we lower our risk tremendously. So I hope that answers your question.
All right, Sharon, did you want to make a response, and then we'll see what we have.
Got time?
Yep.
Okay, first of all, when it comes to water pipes, the system is connected. It is not, you're not going to replace a pipe and fix the 100-year-old system. We have replaced the tanks. We have, in the last 3-4 years, we have replaced the tanks. We have replaced the muffin monster. We have replaced the filters. We have replaced the pump stations. These are all upgrades that have brought it up to code, up to par. These things do not make it a brand new system, but they do the best you can do with new pieces to an old system. There is no way you're going to change the fact that it's a system. You cannot dig up every street in this town.
I didn't say we were going to.
Okay.
You're not going to be able to do that. As far as the municipal salaries are within range for the community, for the area. There's nothing wrong with municipal salaries. As far as the council taking benefits, I don't know who's aware of this, the council salary is $3,000 a year per council member. That is the salary. I don't know if anyone's aware of that. I don't know if anyone's concerned about that. I don't know if anyone thinks that's too much. They do that in lieu of offering someone 55 cents a gallon and paying a person to maintain that, to monitor that, to maintain when you're going to meetings on borough business, when you're not going to borough business. That salary is very little in contrast to what it would cost to monitor and to pay everyone for those mileages, the classes you take, whatever. That is what that salary is for. It's very good.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Wait a second. Yeah, hold on. Just real quick. I just have one response that
It has to be a one-liner.
Yeah, got it.
Okay?
So, got it. So, it will be. But $25,000 for one of your colleagues' health benefits. Why haven't you stood up against that? You know how many people in Red Bank have to pay those property taxes? 5 or 6.
I have stood up for it, and I believe in it. It was offered to him as a benefit when he came on council, and it is there. I personally have not used it, but it is there. As an employee of the borough, he has a right to it, and he uses it, and that is fine.
And I would just, please, Sean, okay? I would just like to say in this instance, I do support a man's right to choose. This man gives time, so much time to this borough. I don't take the health benefits because I'm employed and my employer pays for my health benefits. I have a very good, I'm fortunate, I have a very good healthcare system at AmFAR. But it is illegal, it's legal, and if it's offered, and if a council member or the mayor wants to accept it, they can. You have your opinion. That is my opinion. One other thing, just, okay? In talking about the water system, as Sharon pointed out, you can't replace, if you want to privatize it, Sean, what's going to happen is New Jersey American Water is not going to upgrade the system. We will have to do that. The borough would have to do that. Yes, that's a fact. Yes, it
And
is.
they're not going to take our debt service.
And they will not take the debt service.
Yes, they will.
No, they won't. No, they won't. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, under New Jersey corporate law, when you buy an entity, you then buy the liability. Absolutely, don't argue with me on this. This is again another example of politicians, more politicians, going ahead, paying $25,000 out to their friends, and then on top of that saying, here's why we can't do this, and then not knowing the answer to the question.
No, I'm sorry. I disagree with you. Let's agree to disagree.
You can't say
Okay?
it's a fact. You can't, it's a fact.
Okay.
But I wish you guys can.
Cindy, did you want to say? She wanted to make a comment, and then I'm going to move on.
You know, Sharon and Kathy have said that the town offers these health benefits, and they offered them when this person took them. But I think that the right thing to do is to stand up, and he should not take them. And it's almost like a shame on you for taking them when you don't need them. I can't afford benefits, and I wouldn't take benefits from the town, and I wouldn't even take pay for this job because I am truly a volunteer, and I am truly passionate about making a difference. Now, I just want to say one thing about the taxes. As you may or may not know, Fairhaven has kept its municipal tax rate flat for 6 years. I have met with the borough administrator from Fairhaven, and I have studied and gone over the different things that they've implemented to keep their tax rate low. And one of them is to bring in an in-house engineer. And if we could get rid of T&M, which costs us a fortune and is a huge donator to campaigns, we could save a lot of money. For instance, this in-house engineer that Fairhaven has, he's the borough engineer, he's the planning board engineer, he is the head of DPW, he makes $112,000 a year, he gets one pension, and when he gets leased out to, because they share their services, when he gets leased out to Rumson, he is paid $90 an hour. And I think we could make out really good by getting an in-house engineer and getting rid of T&M.
Okay.
So that's what I would.
So I'm going to move on to another question. All right? So let's see if we have any more questions. Yes, in the back? You either speak loud or you take the mic. Okay, go ahead.
I moved to Red Bank a year ago. I lived in the city. I've seen a lot of things change in New York and improved a lot of things. They had explosions, they fixed gas pipes, they were building outside my window every single day for 5 years, but they do fix things and get things done. I understand when you're in office for a long time or at a job for a long time, you have a tendency to come up against a lot of obstacles, and you can say this can't be done, that can't be done. I'm just curious, what do you really feel
Well,
What could you do better?
well, the direction that I would be going in forward is, from today, it's different from what if you asked me the question 9 years ago. 9 years when I came on the council, my first, I'm aware of what day it is, Sean, thank you. My first charge was Parks and Rec. When I entered Parks and Rec, when I came on the council, I started the process to put the bulkhead in at Marine Park and to upgrade Marine Park. That has been brought to fruition by Councilwoman Lewis. I started the initiative to upgrade Count Basie Park. The fields are being done as we speak, I believe, the baseball field, softball field. The turf went in, the upgrades to the basketball court are working on that now. When I was in Parks and DPW for 6 years, we started the process of upgrading the water tanks. The water tanks literally look like steam engines buried in the ground. It required buildings being moved, facilities being replaced, tanks being made to custom sizes to fit this system. At Chestnut Street, we replaced 2 tanks at Chestnut Street, the facilities and the clarifiers at Tower Hill, as well as the tanks. I mean, I can't, they're as big as this room. I mean, to try and explain it to you without you seeing it, it's a massive project, and it was done in Red Bank. So if you ask me, what would I do different? Where's the fire? The fire is there, and the pot has been boiling. So there's no doubt in my mind of what I do. Going forward, one thing that I have been interested in has been the development of Sunset Park. Now, I'm no longer chair of the Parks and Rec Committee, but that has been something that we have been working on at Sunset Park and how to develop it forward, going forward. Do I predict it will be done in my lifetime? Maybe not all of it, because it's an extremely ambitious plan. But it's a plan that went in, it started in late 1800s, development of a park and a river walk from Newman Springs Road around to Marine Park. So it's been more than 100 years and it's not done yet. It's still a dream, but we do it through obtaining leases on the property so that we can cross over. And so, again, we are the government. And we answer to a lot of people. We answer to every single citizen in this county, in this town. And the process, would I love it to be faster? Most definitely. But it is what it is.
I feel like I explain my question before. I mean, I understand that you've done things, but obviously changes have to be made. We don't money, there's businesses going out in, 2 months in town, they're in for a couple months, and, they have inspectors going through there, and the retailers are having problems, there's so many stores out of business. What kind of changes are going to be made to make Red Bank a better town? To help our budget?
We make changes daily to make Red Bank a better town. Again, I don't see, is there going to be a huge sweeping movement? No, I can't make business decisions for the business owners that come and open up a business and maybe they're paying too much rent, maybe they haven't thought out their business plan, maybe one more Italian restaurant is not what's working. I can't tell you. I don't make a business plan. I don't make a decision on who an owner rents to downtown, no more than I make a decision on who a landlord rents to. We make the places safe, we see that they're properly maintained, and we see that the building is mechanically sound, but we can't tell an owner who he rents to, and we can't tell the young person that comes in and says, I want to open a pet rock store. Maybe it will be successful. We can't make that decision. Those are beyond our scope as governors of this town. I hope I answered the question.
I just want to also add on to that. Sean, I don't know, have you ever held an elected office before? Have you ever been elected, Cindy?
Yeah, okay.
I've been on different commissions, yes.
But have you been an elected official? Have you served as a council person?
No.
And have you served as a council person? No, I still have something to, I'm just asking you, I just need yes or no.
Yeah,
My point-
let me answer the question. No, I'm not a career politician, and this is my first time running for office because I want to make my community better. Not because I want to title.
I think that's great. But my point here is that until you are elected and you're sitting in that seat, you don't understand the difficulties and the ramifications and the boundaries that limit you to a certain degree. I think we have a lot of fire. I would like to do things faster. Sharon would. I think we all would on the council. But there are constraints, and that's the reality of it. It's great to say, I want to make changes, I want to do this. We all want that. I think everybody sitting up here wants change in a positive way. Change just for the sake of change doesn't mean anything. And it's not a really practical thing to do. But governing is a very serious business. I think we've seen what happened in Washington, D.C. It's something that we take very seriously. It's not frivolous. Believe me, the amount of hours we put into this community, we don't go into the council chambers twice a month and that's it. We are on committees. We each chair a committee, and we are each on 2 other borough committees. In addition to that, we are council representatives to other bodies of the borough, like the Environmental Commission. I'm the council rep to that, to the Rent Leveling Board, to the Navesink River Municipalities Committee, to the Human Relations Advisory Committee. I sit on the advisory board of the Boys and Girls Club. I'm the past president and still a member of the Red Bank Borough Education Foundation. In addition, we support so many community events. People invite us to them, and as far as we can, given our schedule during the day, because Sharon and I both work out of town, we are not in town all day. I would love to be able to run into Borough Hall every day and talk to the employees and have meetings with the mayor, with our administrator, with our CFO, with our engineer. I can't do that because I have to work in order to pay my taxes. But governing is a very serious thing. And I think before anyone goes into that line of work, you have to give it really careful consideration because you have very little time for yourself. And there are some weeks where every night there is something. So I think we have fire, but we have constraints as well.
Okay, I don't want to go any further on this one, okay? I want to move on because it's getting late and we have a close. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Oh,
Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Yes.
My question is to Kathy. You just mentioned how you had fire. I think one of our first conversations, you were talking to me about how Republicans are not inclusive, which I completely disagree with.
when did I say that?
When we were going to the, unfortunately, when the child passed away and there was a candle lighting ceremony.
Yeah, she can. Sorry.
All right. Bottom line, my question is transparency, Kathy. I go to the council meetings, and unfortunately, the last 2 candidates were not at the last council meeting when we mentioned that there's going to be a public hearing for a raise from 2%, which is going to be held the day after election. Another problem I have about council as part of transparency is, for example, a lot of these people are not at council meetings, and I believe the council uses it as a pulpit to elect each other to council, a pulpit to try to get zippers to assembly. For example, there was.
You need to ask a question.
My question is, do you feel that transparency is important? And will you enhance it, for example, putting amendments up on the website before 3 o'clock in the afternoon? Because people have things to do, and if it's important, they should know about it. I mean, I have emails from Pam saying, I'll get it up, and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So how do I know if I want to show up at a meeting or not?
Are you talking about the agenda?
Agenda and amendments.
The agenda is supposed to be up there.
Supposed to be.
It's supposed to be, and if it isn't, call me, Suzanne, and let me know, because I will call her. Definitely, it should be up there. We believe in transparency. Our website, and this was brought out when we received 2 awards from Monmouth University, that our website is transparent. We have our budget's up there, we have the audits up there, we have minutes from the council meetings, from the zoning board, planning board, other committees, and that. You can find all kinds of information on there. Of course, I believe in transparency. It's very important.
Okay,
We don't,
you answered it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really would like to respond.
All right, so you can respond quickly,
Yes, quickly.
please, because
Yes,
it's getting late.
Yeah, and just so you know, Kathy Horgan's commitment to transparency. Trade unions this year have given tens of thousands of dollars to Red Bank Democrats. Tens of thousands of dollars to various Red Bank Democratic campaigns.
they've given to me tens of thousands of dollars.
To various Red Bank Democratic campaigns. If any, are you denying that?
No, I'm not denying it.
Okay, great.
Excuse me.
No, I'm gonna finish.
Let him
Kathy,
finish,
I'm gonna
please.
all right, you're next. So tens of thousands of dollars to Ed Zipprich, to Red Bank Democrats, to you guys over the years. What did you do at the council meeting a couple of weeks ago? Kathy Horgan and Ed Zipprich proposed an ordinance that would create project labor agreements. So this is a very complicated issue. I'm going to simplify it very quickly. It essentially would make all municipal construction costs go up 30%. This is what trade union folks are pushing for in various local municipalities. So that, by definition, is corrupt and not transparent, and it's one of the things that I'm fighting against, and it's one of the things that really bothers me about this council. You'll take political money right in your hand, and in response, give away taxpayer money for project labor agreements. That's disgusting, and it's been reported on. Erin.
Okay, quick, because I want to keep.
I am also in agreement with Ms. Vescami. I think that we do need more transparency in our council meetings. As one who goes to, I consider myself a meeting junkie. I go to council, zoning, planning, environmental commission. I go to them all, and there are a lot of things that people don't know. And what I would like to see is our council meetings videotaped. And from what I have found out, Verizon offers every town 2 channels for free that you can show your council meetings on. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes late at night you'll be sitting there, you can't sleep, you turn the TV, and all of a sudden you're watching Bricktown council meetings. Wouldn't it be interesting to watch a Red Bank council meeting? I mean, it may inspire, it may spark something, or you might say, oh my gosh, I never knew that was going on.
Okay.
And we can do this for hardly anything, for free.
I'd like to respond to Mr. DeSoma. A PLA, a project labor agreement, is a pre-hire collective bargaining agreement between the contractor and the unions. It does not mean that costs are going to go up. What was it, 30%, did you say?
Yeah.
That is what opponents to PLAs argue. What you are assured of is that you will have labor that is qualified, they know how to use the equipment, they will come in on time. Many times it's under budget. There will not be any kind of walkout because there will be an agreement before it actually begins. I'm a Democrat, I support labor. I'm not ashamed of that at all. I think Sharon may want to say something. Do you want to jump in?
And just real quick, Mike Dupont, one of your colleagues, also a Democrat, strongly opposed that publicly. So,
I won't speak for Mike because he's not here, but
finance chairman.
I also opposed it because the state has in place similar ordinances, and we are trying to get lighter on our ordinances, not more complex. And I believe that one was tabled with the idea that we would get more information on it and determine if it was necessary.
After the election, right? After you have the campaign cash.
Maybe.
I mean, that's what it is. It's a straight quid pro quo. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
It is not.
It absolutely is.
I don't think that that's the issue. I don't think there was a majority in favor of it, so I don't even see it as, you know, that's just my personal opinion, but you have your opinion and I have mine. But it was on workshop and it was not a majority in favor, so I mean, I don't see, as you see it, that it's something that's going to happen.
Okay.
Are you going to commit to that?
No.
Oh, all right. I was asking Sharon if she was going to commit to that, and she said no, she would not commit to that. So.
I committed at the council, and that's where I commit. I don't commit here to you.
Okay, so I'm going to move on, all right, because it's 20 to 9. I want to see if there's a compelling, if there's one or two compelling questions on an issue that has not been raised yet. Okay? All right, do you have something?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's always compelling.
I know, he's always compelling.
Is it about Byzantine history?
No, hold on.
Well, when you're,
Here, take the microphone, please. And ask
That's a private
specific
joke.
okay. There are two projects of concern to a lot of people in Red Bank right now that have been proposed. I think Walgreens and the hotel at
Hampton.
Exxon site. I know both Cindy and Sean have expressed opposition to these projects. I have not heard from.
Would you like to hear from the other?
councilman. You know, they have not come out in opposition to those projects. Is the silence because you agree with them, or what are your
Okay.
thoughts on that?
Well, okay. I think it's a question of the zoning and planning boards. I think that our giving an opinion is not appropriate. We do like to have ratables. At the same time, there are concerns about traffic, neighborhoods, maintaining the safety of neighborhoods so that cars coming in and out will disturb the peace and tranquility as well of those neighborhoods. But right now, I just don't think it's appropriate for us. It's a balancing act. We'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Hold on. They're asking the incumbents right now. All right, so let them answer first, okay? Thank you.
Again, we wait for the decisions of our professionals, and then we weigh in. And that's where we are right now.
Okay, do you have a one-liner response? Because I want to get to the 3-minute close.
I'd like to know why Sharon and Kathy voted to change the ordinance which allowed the Hampton to go 6 stories.
We were asked by the zoning board, the attorney for the zoning board, to do that because it was so confusing. There were 3 different heights, the height requirements, and that's why it was, we depend upon our professionals to inform us. I'm not a lawyer. Sharon's not a lawyer. And Sharon likes to say we are citizen representatives. We represent you, we represent us. But in any business, whether you are CEO of a corporation, you don't know everything. You have your legal department, you have your sales department, you have your PR department.
Keep it short.
Okay. And so we rely on what our professionals request us to do. We discuss it, and they wouldn't be our professionals if we didn't trust them, and it's a matter of trust as well. Sharon?
Our choice, I mean, again, both of these projects are large commercial projects in an area that has not had a large commercial project. We know we would like ratables, there's always that. We know we would like services to the community. We lost major pharmacies. This year we've lost the small pharmacies, which is very sad for Red Bank, that lose the family pharmacies. But the tides of business turn, and again, we have to be responsive to what is available and who will invest in our community. I'm not the biggest person in favor of big box stores. whatever way they come in. But it's a decision that we'll make when the time is right, based on the advice of our professionals. And our zoning board and planning boards work very hard to give us all the right information. And we'll work with that when it comes.
Okay, so I'm coming down to like the last question. Do we have, are you the only last burning question? Are there any other burning questions? All right, so you're the last question of the night, and then we will do our 3-minute close, okay? And I'm sure the candidates would be happy to stay a couple of minutes after if you want to talk to them individually, okay? So why don't you ask the last question? Do you need a microphone?
I don't think so.
Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to ask a question about infrastructure. I wanted to ask about infrastructure to the two people who are not incumbents, the two candidates. I've understood in hearing Cindy talk at other times that your feeling has been that we would be better off in the borough if we did not provide water, if we let the American Water Company provide the water for the town. My understanding is that if we do that the infrastructure that exists, the piping, some of which 100 years old and which can break at the drop of a hat, as we know, when we have to go around the block. My understanding is that the American Water Company would not take responsibility for the infrastructure, but only for the provision of water. So I want to ask the two of you, Mr. DeSoma and Ms. Burnham, how would you pay for the infrastructure, and what then would we be saving if we don't follow the rules?
I appreciate the question. Number one, this is one of the biggest misunderstandings about that. If we made a decision to sell our water utility system, number one, there's not just one buyer, there could be a few different buyers. So we would have some different options. Number two, New Jersey American Water, or whatever other company it was, we have the ability, just like if we wanted to sell this room, somebody could buy the coffee cups and not the chairs. We have the ability to create whatever kind of deal that we can, and we'll create the type of deal that works best for us, the taxpayers, and the ratepayers. Number three, everybody's saving, the community's personal savings, of which would come to probably around 30 to 35% in water and sewer almost overnight, would absolutely be worth it. Now, beyond that, infrastructure problems, we would negotiate that they would be responsible for infrastructure. And it's very simple. You can negotiate any kind of deal you'd like, or you don't make the deal. So, I appreciate the question, but it's not as cut and dry as, my opponents, the politicians over here, or, some of their operatives are going around town saying, or that's just a general misunderstanding. So I appreciate the question, but we can do it however we'd like. If it doesn't work, then we won't do it.
All right, Cindy?
And we have it.
Stephen, you came a little late, but we hashed all this out before. Yeah, you missed it all. But we did talk about this, and I definitely think the water and sewer needs to be addressed. I think it's definitely the sewer that is costing the people more, and that is the problem, is addressing the sewer bill. The water, I don't know, I think it could be a moneymaker for Red Bank if we handled it right, or we could sell it, but in any case, I think that this is an issue that needs to be investigated and taken further.
And has not been in a serious fashion in a very long time.
Okay. So, everyone's asked their question. Did anything suddenly pop up? Okay. So, now we're at the part where the candidates have their 3-minute closer. They all picked a number out of my hand, not knowing what the number was. So, I don't know who's number one, but whoever's number one, who's number?
I think I was number one.
All right. You can use that mic or this one.
Great. Thanks everybody for coming and asking really thoughtful questions. A lot of the questions really were thoughtful, and I hope that we can clear up some misunderstanding. I really want to just personally say, just in response to something Kathy said earlier, this is it's kind of typical of politicians in Washington or politicians in Red Bank, where they say, well, you're not qualified to do this. These issues are very serious. Let me tell you something. I sit in boardrooms at the biggest companies in the world when they're making real decisions that affect thousands of employees' lives, that affect a huge amount of wealth in their business. And I've got to tell you, I understand the seriousness with which this council needs to be governed. Moreover, if I haven't knocked on everybody's door here, I'll be there before the end of the year, and then I'll be there in December, and then I'll be there in January, because the only way you understand how people are hurting out there when they have to deal with all the red tape, when they just want to fix their front steps, when they have to pay all these licensing fees for any home improvements they want to make. Look, we have a early to mid 20th century government in town. This is the 21st century, whether it be making real improvements to the library and the way they deliver services, whether it's doing whatever we decide to do with the water utility, trimming down some of the fat down in town hall, and being able to really save money and serve taxpayers. You know, it kind of feels like we're stuck in the 1930s where we're just working to serve these folks here. And, you know, at the end of the day, the highest water rates in the area, probably close to in the state, but I can't verify that, so I'm not going to make up numbers. You know, and the highest property taxes in the area. And we have a track record. We have one, Kathy Horgan, who I really adore. Honestly, it doesn't seem like it, but I really do. She really wants, yeah.
We're both
we're both Italian.
Well,
Despite
you're not 100% Italian.
no, but you have an Irish last name, so.
You have an Irish first name.
And middle. So I really do adore Kathy and Sharon, and they're really great people. But you know, at the end of the day, but I'm talking about. Hold on. Cindy has property taxes. I'm about to go with that part. But at the end of the day, Sharon Lee has raised property taxes 63%. No matter what they try to tell you, the numbers are the numbers in the budget. So you can go look them up. Anybody can call me if you want, and I will point you to the source. And I'll point you to news articles from all of these reporters in this room that show you the property tax increases. You can't lie about that. We're sick of politicians lying to us. We deal with it in Washington, and we dealt with it in Red Bank. And Kathy Horgan's raised property taxes at almost 40% herself. So I've got to tell you, as somebody who really takes this issue very seriously, and I really want to serve you, I have no ambitions. I have no political ambitions. I don't want to run for this office. I was talked into it by a lot of folks. I was talked into it by a lot of folks. I wasn't on the ballot back in June. And I've got to tell you, I was talked into it, and you know, I've worked really hard, and I've loved talking to people and meeting voters in town and hearing their issues. And I've got to tell you, I know people in this town are angry. You're angry at Washington, and you're angry at Red Bank. You're angry at politicians, and I promise, anytime you call me, I'll always return your phone call. Anytime you come knock on my door, you can always come in for coffee. So please, I ask for your vote, and I ask for you to allow me to serve you. Thank you.
All right, before I do my wrap up, I just wanted to make bring something out that Sharon had said regarding the Marine Park bulkhead. I've looked at the grant, I've got it here in front of me, it was a $350,000 matching grant. We did get the bulkhead and we did get the fishing pier, but also included in that proposal was landscaping, parking and curbing, walkways, a tot lot, band shells, benches that people paid, what, $1,200, $1,500 for through the borough, tables, picnic area. We got none of those. And our flagpole at Marine Park is
Cindy, the top
terrible.
was put in and washed out.
No, the top lot's there. We didn't get a new
washed
top.
out.
We didn't get a new top lot with this bulkhead. But I just want to say, you know, we didn't get anything. I think our parks are in terrible shape. I'm a park person, so I'm very aware of it. And I just wanted to bring that up. But I wanted to say something also about Sunset. That has been Sunset Park, that they want to turn into a park, and I think that's a great idea. Of course, I don't think it's moving along. I know the incinerator was taken down, but let me just throw this idea out to you. Dog park Could it be a dog park? Just a thought, okay? Because I'm always thinking, my wheels are always turning. But anyway, I just want to thank you all for coming and hearing us and coming out on the night. And I hope you found out a little bit more about me, who I am, what I've done, what I want to do. I am committed to making Red Bank more affordable and to improve the quality of life in Red Bank. I think I've shown that over the last 30 years. I've got a proven record. I've been on the Board of Education. I started Neighborhood Watch throughout Red Bank with Gary Watson was a police officer. I had a Red Bank Residents Association. I did monthly meetings at the middle school. I forged ahead and really created the community garden, created Maple Cove, which is the only public access to the river, and we are in a town that is surrounded by more water than river, and this is the only place we can get to it. Now they want to take it off the Green Acres open space list where it could be sold. Sharon talked about the kids. It's all about the kids. I work at the high school. I know about the kids. Montgomery Terrace, it's the projects. They had a basketball court down there. 7 years ago, they had the backboards and the hoops and the nets taken off. My kids wanted hoops. I talked to the residents down there. They said, yeah, let's try it. I went to the council. I said, these are the kids that need it. I was told no, the council could not help me. This is government housing. I said, but these are Red Bank kids. These are the kids that need it the most. They wouldn't help me. So I went ahead with the Housing Authority's approval. I got the backs, the board, the nets and the hoops, and I got them. I went to Gary Watson to ask him if he would help me put them up. He wouldn't help me put them up. He said that was using taxpayer money. So I went and I found somebody else to help me, a tree guy, and we got them up. But the same thing with the benches over at Mohawk Pond last summer. The benches, that's a 30-year neglected park. I had kids in the high school that needed community service hours. I said to Gary Watson, can you fix the benches? You couldn't even sit on the benches. The bolts were coming through. Rotten wood. Gary told me, don't have any money. Can't do it. So I called some newspapers. They came down. They did an article. Front page of the local. 3 days later, we got new benches, they got fixed, and they got painted. Okay. But again, I just want to say that, I'm committed to stabilizing the tax rate. The municipal tax rate is one of my main concerns. The misuse of taxpayer money is appalling. If you ever really knew what was going on, you'd be amazed. The lack of transparency. And I just believe that my 30 years of involvement in so many aspects of Red Bank's protocol, procedures, people, and issues makes me uniquely qualified. And people ask me a lot because they know that I've butted heads with the council many times. Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this? And I just say, you have to walk through the flames to put out the fire. And that's really kind of what I want to do. Again, my name is Cindy Burnham. I hope you'll give me a chance. I need your support, and I will ask for your vote on November 5th. Thank you.
I want to thank you all again for coming out. I do want to just make one statement. The innuendos that are being thrown at us, I really think are unfounded. We are transparent, but I don't have to keep repeating all those things. Why am I running for office again? Aside from giving back to the community, I am invested in this community. I'm going to live here forever. I'm getting older, not younger. There are things I still want to accomplish. Some of the things that I've been working on are environmental, which will also help to keep our expenses down. The Environmental Commission is now looking into composting. By composting, we will have less garbage. Our tipping fees will be less. Every month, $34,000 is paid to the county for tipping fees, and that includes household garbage, bulk pickup, and leaves and brush. I also want to put in a living shoreline. This is something I feel very dedicated about. And we may have several places here in Red Bank that might accommodate that. That's something that's very important to me. We discussed this at the council meeting, the last council meeting. JCP&L, we've been asking them for a long time to put in LED lighting, LED lighting. That will take the cost down considerably, probably something like $400,000 a year. So that's something that I would like to do as well. The Mayor's Wellness Campaign that our Councilman DuPont introduced and our mayor has been very involved with, as have the rest of us. For every employee that remains healthy, the borough will get $1,500 from the state. So that's something that's very important. I'd like to see borough-wide Wi-Fi. We have it at the Borough Hall, but I think it's important, and I was working with our late police chief, Steve McCarthy, on getting it installed for the police in particular for their work. But we also talked about having it borough-wide. We need to revitalize the Monmouth Corridor. There's a lot of development going on there. This will bring in people who will be interested in living here, working here. They will have easy access to transit. And downtown revitalization, I think it's 4% are vacancies right now, which is much less than the 7% statewide. In education, I am chair of the Education Technology Committee. I'm very committed to the schools. I want to see kids get more involved with local government. Civics aren't taught anymore. When I went to school, we learned about government. I think it would be great. Our mayor did have one child come to lead the meeting one time as mayor. I think it would be great to have a whole bunch of kids up there taking our places and learning what it's like to run a meeting and to learn about government. And in historic preservation, and I know many of us here are involved with the restoration of the T. Thomas Fortune House. That, again, will be a cultural and educational center. It will be great for our kids. It will bring in tourists. It will bring in money. These are things that I'd like to accomplish. And in closing, I just want to say that Red Bank, for the last 20 years, has been led by Democrats. It's prospered. We will continue to move forward. We realize it's the 21st century, but we also realize the constraints sometimes that face us. We're very dedicated to our community. I would ask for your vote so that I can continue doing what I've been doing. It's nothing, it really is not about me, it's about you. We're all in this together. We're taxpayers as well. But thank you for your time. Thank you for coming tonight. And please remember to vote on November 5th. Thank you.
I'm only getting up because I have to stretch. Again, I want to thank everyone here for coming out this evening. And I'm not going to go through the details of what I've done and what I've done. We've kind of touched on all of that. What people don't believe we've done, we do believe we've done to make it. But I would like to say something about our town, about our council, about our borough. There's a reason that the two people who are running have moved from their hometowns to Red Bank. It's because we run a great ship. And there's a reason they want to be part of it, because it is a great ship to be on. And there's a reason that I want to be on it again, because I enjoy being a part of a great team in a great borough, great citizens. Republican, Dem, doesn't matter. I enjoy my town, and I enjoy participating in my town. I hope to continue. I hope to have your support in that continuing. And if not, I will still do what I do. As far as everything that we do in the borough, once you come on the council, you have rules. As a citizen activist, before I came on the council, I did pretty much what I wanted to do. Now, some days I can't even talk to people about simple things that I took for granted before that I could have a conversation about. I can't talk to my brother about things because they involve him. Did I ever think my hands would be so tied? No. But I think that the greater good is that I can actually be doing something about it. I may not be able to talk about it, but I can fix it. I can make it better. Will it happen in my lifetime? Maybe not. But I won't stop trying, and I'll continue doing what I do. But I thank for allowing me to be on the borough this long. I hope you will allow me to continue to be on the borough. I ask for your votes, but most important, vote.